Hey guys, this is Michael from techfrost, and in this video we'll be reviewing Motorola's take on the smartwatch, the Moto 360. One of the things that really makes the Moto 360 stand out is its absolutely amazing design. The Moto 360 is the only smartwatch to feature a large and beautiful round display. The Moto 360 features a sleek, modern, and stainless steel casing that looks great and also is IP67 certified, which means the device is water and dust resistant. The Moto 360 has a Corning Gorilla Glass display, so that makes it durable, scratch resistant, but at the same time it is definitely a magnet for fingerprints. The Moto 360 has a bright and beautiful display. I think Motorola could have done a better job with the pixel density. We'll talk more about that later in the review. But one of the things I have to say that I really like about the 360's display, aside from its size, is the fact that Motorola slightly raised the display. As you can see here, it's slightly raised. That adds more to the experience, and it's just these small touches that the Motorola 360 has that makes it such a great device. A lot of people complained, as you know, about the black cutout at the bottom. It's really not that big, and it's really not that bad. It doesn't take away from the experience. You get used to it after a few days of usage. Were it not there, we would have had a larger bezel because the display drivers have to be somewhere in the device, so I understand the decision to place that there. On the side of the 360, we have a small button that Motorola placed, which is used to turn the device on and off. It's surrounded by a small bronze bezel, and I think it looks really nice. It adds a sense of realism to the device. So on the bottom of the device, we have a very nice design, and we also have a heart sensor, which is nestled in between our wireless charging ports. I love the fact that the Moto 360 charges wirelessly. It's easy, and it looks great doing it. So like I said, charging the Moto 360 on the included wireless charging dock is easy. The dock looks great, and all you gotta do is really just drop it on there, and it even turns into a nice desktop clock, which I think is very nice. Keeping the device on your arm is Motorola's genuine Horween leather straps. These straps look and feel great. As you can see, there's a nice suede lining on the inside. And they have a very nice texture to them. These bands are replaceable, of course, but I probably won't be doing that anytime soon, as I really love these straps. Overall, the Moto 360 looks great, and it's very comfortable on the hand, which is something that really matters. You need to have a watch that doesn't stick out, that doesn't attract way too much attention. It matches with anything you wear. Overall, it's just probably the most normal-looking smartwatch out there. The functionality on the 360 is great. There's so much stuff you can do on it. It makes everything so much more convenient. Everything is literally right there on your wrist. No more pulling out your phone, get directions, set alarms, text people. Everything is right there. Now let's get into the performance and the specs of the Moto 360. So one of the things a lot of people complained about is the fact that the Moto 360 is powered by a TI OMAP 3 processor. This processor is almost 4 years old at this point, and it is quite an outdated chipset to be placed into a new device, even though this is a first-generation smartwatch. But I have to say, though the processor may be outdated, it does not hold back the device. The device still performs smoothly, and everything I need to do gets done quickly. There's no lag. I've actually pretty much never experienced any lag with this device. Occasionally there has been some lag, and that's usually like when it first boots up, and it's really like that on every device. Operations are starting up, functions are beginning to turn on. So the processor may be outdated, but it does not hold back the device. So the Moto 360's display is a LED LCD IPS. It's 320 by 290. That's 205 pixels per inch, and it is not the OLED or AMOLED display that many other smartwatches have. It is a backlit LCD. But that really doesn't affect the display. The display is very bright. I really like that. It has to be crucial that the watch can be seen in outdoor conditions, because a lot of times when we're outside and we need to check the time, smartwatch is kind of useless if you can't actually see the time. So the display is bright, but I do think Motorola could have done a better job on the pixel density. Like I said, it's 205 pixels per inch, and it's really not that good, because I actually don't use quite a few watch faces simply because their intricacies are small and their features are small, and they don't look that great on a pretty low-res display. That's why I'm using this digital watch face, aside from the fact that it looks awesome. So I think Motorola could have done a better job with the display. Its main competitor, which is coming soon, actually sometime in October, the LG G Watch R, will feature a better display, a smaller one, but at the same time a better display. So Like I mentioned in the first part of the review, there is the black cutout people are complaining about. Like I said, it does not take away from the aesthetics or the use of the device. At first, it may seem to be kind of out of place, and some have been calling it the flat tire look, but after a while, trust me, well, maybe not even a while, for me it was a couple days, you'll get used to it, and I am somebody who is crazy about aesthetics, and I don't think it's that bad. Like I said, Motorola's decision to place that there was a good idea, because otherwise we would have had a thicker bezel like the LG G Watch R, which does not have the cutout at the bottom. The side-to-side screen definitely adds a lot to the Motorola 360's experience. Were it to have a larger bezel, I don't think I'd be enjoying it as much. The reason that is there, and the reason why I'm saying there would be a bezel had it not been there, is because the display drivers as well as the ambient sensor are packed into this cutout, because those display drivers need to be placed somewhere. And were it not to be there, we would have to have a larger bezel where that content would be stored. So Moto 360 does have the cutout, but I think it's a good choice that it was put there. I'd rather have that than anything else. So the Moto 360 has 4 gigabytes of memory and 4 gigabytes of storage, and it has 512 megabytes of RAM. So that's pretty much the standard. All the smartwatches are powered by that. I think it's totally fine. 512 megabytes of RAM, as well as the processor, are enough, because this device really does not need that much power. It's definitely not doing nearly as much as a phone is, and it's in general a lot smaller. And I think 4 gigabytes of storage is great. There are lots of apps for this device, and 4 gigabytes is plenty to hold them. So the Moto 360, another thing a lot of people were complaining about was the battery. The Moto 360 is powered by a 320 milliamp battery, which I have to say is not as bad as many reviewers have made it sound, but it has something really weird about it, the fact that it is inconsistent. The 360's battery life varies. When I first got it and I first used it, it died within about 6 to 7 hours, which is extremely disappointing, and I was already very upset. I was like, hoping this would not continue, and it didn't. The Moto 360 one time managed to last 2 days on a single charge with moderate usage. Obviously, if you use the device a lot, you're constantly opening apps, and you're constantly taking your heart rate, and you're constantly just doing a lot of operations on the device. They're not built for that. None of the smartwatches are, so that will drain it a lot faster. Another thing people complained about involving the battery was the fact that to make the battery last the longest, ambient mode had to be disabled. So what ambient mode does is it keeps the device on, and even then it doesn't keep it on all the time. It simply dims, lasts for like 30 seconds, and then turns off. Personally, I only need the time when I'm looking at the device, so I'm not really that crazy about that feature. The device turns on when I place it towards my face, so honestly I really don't need that ambient sensor. I am okay with that, but yes, I did turn it on once just to test how it would work, and the battery drained a lot faster. So I think Motorola could have done a better job on the battery. Its competitor, the G Watch R, will feature a 410 milliamp battery, which can last about 2 days on a single charge with moderate usage. So I think that's good. The Moto 360's battery life, though, is not that bad. It's inconsistent. It could have been better, but it's definitely nowhere near as bad as some people make it sound. So the Moto 360 is powered by Android Wear. So Android Wear is Google's take on the whole smartwatch industry for the whole all Motorola's and the Samsung products. Well, some of the Samsung products, they're all powered by this Android Wear, and it's a first-generation operating system, so obviously we've all grown accustomed to, smooth, nice experiences, but it is a first-generating operating system, and I think it's a great first-gen operating system. It works very nice. It has a growing community of developers and apps, which I think is amazing, because there's really so much more you can do with the 360 once you've downloaded all those apps. And Android Wear in general it provides a pretty fluid experience. My only problem with it is that there's a lot of swiping involved, and that can get really inconvenient, especially since I have the Wear launcher installed. As you can see here, I kind of installed this just because accessing apps without that can be really inconvenient. So that causes a lot of problems. I'm trying to close an app, and I've accidentally opened the launcher, and I'm trying to close it again to get to the watch face, and I open the launcher again. So that can be really irritating. There's a lot of swiping. The tapping can be inconvenient. And my main problem is with OK Google, the whole, voice functionality. It doesn't work that great. I've tried to send text messages with it and, set timers and whatever, and it usually does not recognize what I'm trying to say. I've had to set all my context to, like, friend, dad, mom, just so it's like these generic words that the device can recognize. So I think there definitely needs to be more work on that. There was a recent update to Android Wear that improved the battery life on all Android Wear devices and just made it a little faster. So I think they're doing good with that. There's lots of apps, just to show you some that I've installed. I have a calculator here. So there's a lot of apps that make, the whole thing of pulling out your phone, make that a lot less necessary, because you can just, perform quick math problems straight from your wrist, add up a sum at the restaurant or grocery store. There's even a browser for it, which I can't say is really that easy to use. And there's also a lot of great included apps like Google Fit, which monitors your steps, as well as your heart rate and all that. I can't say I use it too often. When I do go for walks, I do use that, and it's very accurate. It also has, your heart activity, heart rate. It's always telling me, that, you have these goals and you have to have a week, but I'm not sure how accurate the whole heart activity thing is. The heart rate is pretty accurate, but heart activity, by the time I've been awake for like 2 hours, is already telling me I've completed my daily cardio exercise goal, and to be honest, I've done no cardio exercise in that time. So I'm not quite sure about that. I hope these apps continue to improve as the whole Android Wear platform and its developer community grows. So overall, at the end of the day, the big question is the Moto 360 something worth buying? So the Moto 360 works and looks great, but it definitely has some cons. It has an inconsistent battery life and an outdated chipset, and a platform that's still growing and still has its bugs, glitches, and inconveniences. So I still think the Motorola 360 is probably the best smartwatch out there, even in comparison to Apple's iWatch, which I have yet to get my hands out, which is coming out in 2015. I think the 360 looks the best, and it really works well. It may have some outdated chipset, but that doesn't affect the overall performance of the device. But at the same time, the whole smartwatch industry in general is a very new market, and it's something that's growing. Waiting to see how the market evolves and purchasing devices later in time when they are, thinner, smaller, more powerful is also a much better idea. But purchasing the Moto 360 now, it would not be a bad purchase. The 360 makes things very convenient. Everything is straight, at the wrist of your hands. There's so much you can do straight from the watch. There's such a large community of apps and developers that is actively growing, and I don't think that it would be a bad purchase or a decision to get the Moto 360 now. Overall, I give the Moto 360 an 8 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more.